Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. All right, welcome back to DubLife Diaries. I'm excited for this one. I've got an awesome guest in the house tonight. He bought his first Volkswagen in 1972, opened a repair shop while he was still in college, turned grease-stained hands into a second career in technical education. We're going to hear all about that. Pulled a bus out of a barn after 25 years, accidentally became the face of Oklahoma tourism. I can't wait to hear about that as well. And now spends 2 weeks of every month chasing music festivals, campouts, and divine encounters. He's at a camp out right now, sitting in his bus while he's doing this podcast. How cool is that? This isn't just bus life. This is bus philosophy. Leo Van Delft, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Man, you are so welcome. I'm excited for this one. You are the DubLife. This is it, man. This is the ultimate guest that I look out for. So I appreciate that you heard, got the call and filled out the form, and now you're here. So thank you so much for being willing to come on. If you've listened to any of the podcasts from the past, you may have heard the 2025 recap where I talk a little bit about how many times I get told no. I reach out to people, man, all over the world that I think are awesome and, are exemplary of the dub life. And, brother, sometimes I don't even get a response. So thank you for being willing. Real quick, before we dive in, I do want to give a couple shout outs to my sponsors. First up on the list, Volksmania magazine. You guys know how I feel. I feel like these guys are the flyest VW publication, VW magazine on the face of the planet. It's not just about the quality of the magazine, it's the people, just like it's the people in our community. Paul Cave and the team, awesome folks. Give those guys a shot if you haven't yet. You can check them out at volksmania.com. Use DubLife10, which is the name of the podcast, the number 10, at checkout. This is US subscribers only. You'll get 10% off your subscription. Also, shout out to Salty Dub. From the beach to the bay, Salty Dub is tearing up the VW scene with the coastal VW stuff. We got all kinds of swag and really cool stuff, sunglasses and hats, and we also got some events coming up. But check those guys out online as well, saltydub.com. Same discount code applies to merch only. So you can get a 10% discount if you use DubLife10 at checkout. All right, my man, back to you. We are back to you. So let's do this. Let's go back to 72. Tell me kind of what was happening in your life when that 1966 VW Beetle showed up.
Well, I'll tell you what, my first vehicle was actually a motorcycle, which I got at 14 and a half. So when I was getting close to 16, I thought, I want to get a car too, and I could legally drive it. And did shopping around and actually bought it from a Volkswagen dealer, and for the amazing price of $600. So at the time, this was only a 6-year-old Beetle, but that's kind of how it went. Had about 60,000 miles on it and a 1300 engine. And so that got me going. And but one quick thing I wanted to share with you guys, in terms of where this all started.
Yeah.
My mother passed away about 5 years ago, and we went through this box of pictures. She was 94 years old, had a wonderful life.
Wow.
And I come across a picture of me and my brother pointing at the license plate in 1961 of an oval window Beetle in Toronto, Canada.
Wow.
So apparently I was drawn to Volkswagens at a very early age.
Sure.
So, so that got it all started getting in that Beetle, and I started traveling in that Beetle regularly, and which was unusual for a 16-year-old kid to make trips, but that's what I did from an early on, and that's how it all got started.
So did you know back at that moment when you had that or acquired that first Beetle that this would become kind of a lifetime relationship for you with Volkswagen?
Truthfully, I had no idea.
Okay.
I never even thought about it, other than you never seem to have just one, and within the year I got another one. So and my parents allowed this, which was one of those things that you say, I didn't come from an automotive family, so why did they let me do this? But they saw the how much I enjoyed it.
Yes, let's talk about that one. So, like you said, just a year later, you got a 67 Westie, right?
Yes, uh-huh.
All right.
And
Tell us about that story.
okay, well, I'll tell you what, a year later, I had gone to a dealership and actually got to drive some buses. At the time, they were out of my financial realm, so I decided a year later, when I actually had my first job and was making money, I decided I'm going to go take a look for a bus, and lo and behold, I found that bus, and that's where really the camping and the convenience of having that, being able to sleep in my bus, pack my clothes, just have everything I needed, and I was living in the DC, Washington, DC area at the time. So music festivals out in the Skyline Drive area of Virginia. I just drove that bus all over, and pretty much every weekend, if I had the opportunity, I would be going to a music festival or just go hiking and all that type of stuff. So that's where it all got started.
Now, 67, that's kind of a special year for the bus, right? That's the first year to 12 volt and the last year of the split window, right?
That is correct. Yeah, and of course, it's got the backup lights and a few other little amenities that just make them a little different. But yeah, it's been I don't know how many miles I put on that bus, but it was my main driver for probably 20 years.
Wow.
Even though I had other Volkswagens, but the funny thing about that bus, it had been painted. The bottom half, it was originally a white bus, the silver white, and the bottom was yellow. So Corvette yellow, and when I bought it, it was that way already. So uh, it became known as the banana split, and that was named by someone else. So
Oh,
anyhow, yeah,
that's cool, man. Cool story.
yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. So I'm interested and I'm curious. I was born in the 70s, 77, but kind of late, right? But what was the bus culture like back in the 70s compared to what it's like maybe even now?
It didn't really exist like it does now at all. There were a lot, but you did find that people that drive Volkswagens were always attracted to each other. So wherever I went, if there was another Volkswagen owner there, became friends, and at that time, Volkswagens were so common that there were a lot of friends that I met through Volkswagens. So in other words, this back then, I mean, I'd say out of 10 cars, at least one of them was a Volkswagen that was on the road. And so there were a
Wow.
lot of buses and Gias and Beetles at that time. And
Yeah.
so I kind of watched it evolve during its peak sign of the air-cooled generation Volkswagen.
Oh man, awesome. So when did you realize, at what age were you where you said, okay, if I'm going to drive one of these things, I better learn how to fix them?
Well, I'll tell you, my 66 Beetle, I made a trip to Atlanta, Georgia. And that was my first major trip in that car. And in going there, I got to the Beltway at Atlanta. Of course, it was busy back then, but nothing like what it is now. And I actually dropped a valve. Of course, I had no idea what that meant, other than the motor shut down, the lights came on the dash, and I'm pulling over the side of this big interstate type Beltway. And I called my parents as to what to do, and they said, "Well, take it to the nearest Volkswagen dealer." So I had it towed to the dealer, and I had friends in Atlanta, the car actually got a replacement cylinder head, piston, and cylinder only. In other words, they patched the motor
Yeah.
successfully. And back then, and back in the day, they would do that. And this was actually in a dealership, not independent garage. And in the meantime, while I was waiting for my car, I had an opportunity to get a job. So I got a summer job working as a chauffeur for a guy for about a month, and I generated enough money to pay for my repair bill, which imagine this at being $175. Yeah, which was pretty amazing. Of course, to me, that was a lot of money back then, but in today's world, it's that kind of sparked the interest that I wanted to learn more than just, doing the points. I knew about points and adjusting the valves, but I decided, you know what, I got to find out how that this all works. And needless to say, I found a motor to take apart when I got home. And that was really how it all started. And basically, most of it was all self-taught. And of course, the manuals that we had back then, from the Muir manuals on up. Of course, I had the early generation Haynes manuals and just what was available. And I did a lot of reading. I liked and just learned about all different parts of the car.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw that too, self-taught, which was really cool. So how did then wrenching, kind of not going to say as a passion, but kind of, but you really were just trying to learn how to fix these cars that you were driving. How did that turn into you opening up a VW repair shop while you were in college? 'Cause I thought that was really cool to see
Okay.
in your history.
Well, I moved from the Washington, D.C. area and I went to school in Missouri. So here I'm 1,100 mile into the trip and I get started at school and found my place to live and all that good stuff. Well, I was looking for a part-time job and there was a Texaco station, full service back then. And I originally pumped gas for them for about 2 weeks, but when they saw my Volkswagen bus out there, they would stop by and say, "Hey, you guys work on Volkswagens?" The owner asked me, "Leo, do you think you can do this?" I said, "Well, let's see." So we started with oil changes and basic tune-ups and stuff like that, and then it got into doing brake work. Well, he hired me at $5 an hour, and he continued to pay me $5 an hour, but I was working in the shop and not pumping gas. So after about 3 months, I questioned him about it, and he said, "Well, that's what I can afford to pay." And I said, "Well." So I had $300 and two Craftsman toolboxes and a set of floor jacks and one hydraulic jack that kind of leaked. And I was able to find a building. And where this came from, I have no idea looking in retrospect, but a $175 a month building.
Wow.
And yeah, and I had a total of $300. So that left me $125 of operating capital. And I was a full-time student. So I thought, but I realized there was a market, and here again, this was late 70s, early 80s. There was a lot of Volkswagens in the college town, and so one thing led to another, and I became a full service Volkswagen shop. And the interesting thing about it was because of my school hours, I was open when I was, when I couldn't be in class and in business, so my hours were always odd. But I met people at the school, and I had one good friend in particular from New York who knew how to work on Volkswagens. And suddenly went from just me to on his off hours, he would go down there and hang out. And he had quite a bit of skill also.
Wow.
And so it just kind of evolved like that, that I had what turned into friends as well, and people that drove Volkswagens that worked with me. And really, one of the highlights was we had a lot of international students at the university, and they would come over because they drove import cars, and they'd say, "Hey, can we hang out with you?" And I did not know the skill level that they had working out of their toolboxes that were look like a fishing tackle box, and they could fix cars. And the thing that I had to kind of cure them of is they like to repair parts versus replace the part because they came from cultures that did not have the resources to buy that new part.
That's right.
And so once we got that all handled, and the business ran for 23 years. I was there for about 7 years of it, and my brother kind of took over the business side of it, and yeah, we became a part of the community. So
Really cool, man. Really cool. And
yeah.
it's cool how some things like that come together and just happen. So what year was this about?
This would have been in the like night from 1970. Well, I'd say so the first shop I started was 1978. Yeah. So that and when about 4 years later, I would put together the financing to actually buy my own building in that town, not knowing if I was staying, going, or whatever. And that was the yeah. And then suddenly had something that was really efficient to work in, and we were making enough money to pay the bills, and I had a happy staff. So, and as I say, it really felt like family,
Yeah.
and I would get new people that I would meet. So, in other words, 4 or 5 years into this, some people would graduate and they weren't working with me, and I'd find another person that because we kind of became well known in the town for what we did.
Right on. So at what point then in was it in this business did you venture into the to Porsche and Mercedes?
Well, what we found was after about 4 years of business, a lot of our customers had other German cars, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, and I've kind of been, I was into the 356 Porsche thing back then also. So in other words, when they were quite affordable compared to what they are now. So we started doing routine maintenance, and the nearest dealerships were 90 miles away from us. And it turned out that some of them times we would actually do the warranty repair. They would send us the parts. So we turned this relationship with the dealership as well as with our customers who were happy they didn't have to drive the 90 miles. And we had to be at times we had to recognize this is over our head, meaning there were sometimes the complexity of these cars, even back then, that you say, okay, no, that's beyond what we feel comfortable with. But we were able to get certifications to these dealerships in the different areas. So this really kind of helped our credibility because back then, early start of ASE certification for technicians,
Right.
and these dealerships offered the training to us. So that's what I would do in the evenings. I'd drive to 90 miles to Columbia, Missouri, and I'd go to class. So yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah. So do you think that German engineering then helped shape your mindset long term?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was in tune with it. And when it came to the electrical diagrams and seeing the brown wire was ground rather than the American car that would have the black ground wire and all these little subtle things that you learn that there is a methodology to how they work it. And once you learn their system, you can kind of adapt it between pretty much all the brands, or at least that's what I found for myself.
Yeah, interesting. Kind of cool. Your background, though, and your education was, you had mentioned it earlier, was biochemistry. But then
Yes.
you kind of pivoted toward technical education. Walk me through how that happened in your life.
Well, I originally came to Missouri to go to the College of Osteopathic Medicine. So I had originally thought I was going to become a doctor. So a master's in biochemistry, but I didn't realize that I had actually had an engineering heart versus I understood the human body, but there was something about cars that was very similar parallels to it in terms of diagnosing issues. And so when I graduated, I decided to take a year of away from being in school because, after 7 years in school, I was ready for a break. And then I met my lovely wife, who was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I found myself moving to Tulsa. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. The business was running well, and it gave me some options to do some travel and do some things that I wanted to do. And I got a random call from someone that said, "Hey, we have an evening course that we're looking for an instructor for, and we heard that you might be the guy that we're looking for." I thought, where did this come from? And I had already met a lot of the automotive people in the Tulsa area, the different shops and stuff. So I kind of was familiar with what was going on there. And I taught that class. I had a wonderful time. There were actually some people in the class that drove Volkswagens, but they drove a little bit of everything. It was all pretty much the starting generic information, so it wasn't really high level learning at that point. But
Right.
I realized after doing a semester of that, and then they had told me, they said, well, we don't have openings very often, but we'll keep you in mind because I thought maybe this is my next step. Well, lo and behold, 30 days later, they come with a full-time opportunity for me as a curriculum developer, which no experience, but I realized I could do it. And then I ended up becoming an instructor for them. And was able to do that for 7 years and thoroughly enjoyed it. I realized this was a job that I didn't even call a job. It was so much pleasure to it, dealing
Oh,
with the students, dealing with parents,
yeah. So
even dealing
cool.
with administration. Ultimately, I ended up going into school administration, became program developer, and uh, still work with students and the instructors and all that. But our programs included everything from motorcycles, medium, heavy duty truck, automotive. So I had plenty of stuff to keep me busy. We had 16 different instructors, so I oversaw all that and just had a wonderful experience of making it happen and meeting lots of people.
So you mentioned the parallels. How much of diagnosing cars translates into diagnosing students?
Uh, well, let's put it this way. Teaching is a wonderful occupation, but there's always that one student in every crowd that you say, wow, they're testing my patience. So, as
Hey,
far as is there a
that
parallel
was
to a
me, by
car?
the way. I was that student.
And sometimes, we get a car that is not the routine repair that we say, okay, so I don't know if there's a parallel or not, but a lot of it has to do with just kind of having patience to go through it all. And that helped in the classroom. It definitely helps when you're working on a car.
All right, well, let's separate the two then. What makes a good technician and what makes a good teacher?
Okay. Well, as far as the technician, patience and the willingness to actually educate yourself, because a lot of particularly now, this stuff does not automatically just come to you. And it really takes more of an engineering amount, particularly on this newer generation stuff, to actually to work on them and repair them where you get it right the first time versus, well, we'll try this and go to plan B.
Right.
Um, so Yeah, so that's what so patience is probably the biggest thing when it comes to technicians. And as I say, I'm understanding now the engineering mindset is really important.
And then how about on the teacher side?
What makes a good teacher? Guess what? Patience and
Same thing.
understanding. And you realize when you teach that the knowledge and transfer of knowledge, you really have to think about how do you make it where the person comprehends what you're saying and recognize that each student is different. And our class size typically was about 16 to 18 students, and the variety of different students and seeing their progress and recognizing some of them have more of the just natural ability than others. But you work with all of them. And what I found in the classroom was that the fact that students that were not understanding things as well could be mentored by their other students. And that's why we kind of came into our own little internal mentorship program and how we worked in teams on cars and that type of thing. So everybody got to kind of sharing the experience and learn the logic behind diagnosing cars and repairing them.
Yeah, when you were just describing that, it reminded me. I went to trade school fresh out of high school down here at a school called PTech, Pinellas Technical Education Center, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for marine mechanics, and it was a very similar approach. There'd be one instructor, there'd be 8 or 10 guys that were on, a certain module, and we'd all be out there working together, putting our hands on it together. It would be a lot of togetherness, and it was really cool. It was a cool experience. I I didn't stay in that. I probably should have, but I realized probably about 300 credit hours in that I could probably leave and go make more money than my instructor. I was a young kid, man. I didn't really know everything yet. Still don't. But I
Right.
left and I went and started my own company and I started kicking ass. And yeah, I ended up having 10 guys working for me and started really, climbing the ladder. I had a lot of fun. Down here in my area, that's really what life's all about. You do a lot of boating around here. We're like
Oh, absolutely.
center West Coast Florida. So I'm interested to hear what was more challenging for you, a stubborn student or a stubborn
Uh,
engine?
I'm going to have to say the stubborn students, I usually was able to find that common ground and make things happen. Sometimes when you're working on mechanical stuff and it just doesn't go according to plan, and you just can't think it through in such a way that you fix it the first time. And a strange story about that is sometimes I would go home because I learned that sometimes when you have a stubborn motor, you need to get away from it and then you come back to it. And I've actually had in my dreams revealed the answer to what I was actually trying to find with that vehicle.
Oh,
It was the
cool.
weirdest thing that would happen. And you suddenly feel the next day like, and you go to it, you do what you had thought about previously in your dream, and lo and behold, that's what you had overlooked.
Come on.
Sounds strange, but I
The
actually
answer is right
experienced that.
there. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool, actually.
yeah.
So, do you think early days of the bus life, do you think that had an influence on your teaching philosophy as that career started to develop?
Well, I'd say the parallel is this. When I worked on them and I had employees that worked on them, and I'm in a rural town that did not have trained employees, because I also hired people from the local town, and I realized mentoring them to actually be able to work on a Volkswagen or a Porsche or a BMW told me a lot about the fact that I didn't realize at the time that I was actually teaching them, guiding them how to do that, so I could ensure that the repair work was done correctly. And this would have been for all my employees. So the education seed was already planted. I just did not know it till I actually did it, got into it, and thrived in it for about 23 years. So I consider that my second career. Yeah,
Yeah. Education gave you summers off, right? So the
that yeah.
when did the road trip lifestyle really start to take off for you? About what age?
I'd have to say 16. I mean,
Oh,
whether I made my trip to Atlanta, made my trip to Missouri from these were, I mean, for a young kid drive, I graduated when I was 17, so I was just a young whippersnapper, and I felt totally comfortable going on the road and doing a trip in a car, and I never ever thought about the car not being what could happen if it broke down type thing. I never thought about that. When I had my summers off, which was like, okay, I have a summer, I've got income still coming in, and so I decided. I would go to different events. And so really, I took full advantage of having the summer off. So I do Yellowstone trips, I do Colorado trips, Arizona trips, and I could go for 2 or 3 weeks and come back. And I just need to make sure that I was back before about by the first week of August, because that's when school started. And of course, you got the wind up to get school started and all that good stuff there. But the traveling actually started much earlier, but it really thrived when I could make a living and still do this. And enjoy places and people that I've met literally all over during that time. So it kind of took care of itself.
I noticed from your backstory that your mindset really kind of is go with the flow. When did that really become your travel mindset?
I've learned that well, I'll tell you what, I've never been a person that had a time frame and I got to be here by such. The vehicle, we know we drive a vehicle that you have to drive according to conditions, and there's a lot of variables from strong winds to storms and closed up points. I mean, the things that can kind of slow you down on the road. Um, so the mindset of going with the flow is you don't get too excited about anything. I mean, you're excited about enjoying it all and you take it as it comes. And for the last 20 years or so, because a lot of times people say, well, don't you have anxiety or are you nervous about driving, of breaking down? And it's like, I don't. I drive this just like you may drive your Golf or GTI or whatever, other than I don't have cruise control and air conditioning and I'm cruising about 60 miles an hour. So,
Right. Which
yeah.
is a vibe in itself. Curious, why 250 miles a day?
I now that I'm fully retired, I've been retired now for 6 years. I keep it to about 250 miles a day because I've learned that getting off the road early gives me the time that wherever I'm going to be at, and in many cases I'm boondocking. I have a wide variety of different apps I use, as well as places I've been that I know are good stopping points between, let's say, here and Lake Havasu or wherever. And so that way I enjoy the day and I don't, I can do a 5, 6, 700 mile day, but I don't need to and I don't have to. And that way I get to really enjoy the areas that I go to.
Yes, and dude, the one picture that you sent me of all your pinned locations over the country, I looked at it and I was like, what? I couldn't believe all of those stops. Crazy. I'll post that when this episode airs, probably right around this area, so people can see that too. You mentioned the bus speed, right? You travel at 60 miles an hour. What have you
Yeah.
learned mostly about America traveling at what we call the bus speed?
Well, I have to say what I really enjoy is the fact that when I travel to different areas, and I'm going to say particularly right now, I've been spending a lot of summers, not summers necessarily, but the during the travel year, I make 3 trips down the Florida, the Gulf Coast area. And what I learn about every area is I learn about the people and the culture and why they think the way they do, and why that things that you may see common in the Midwest or on the West Coast or up north is it will be different. So each region has a different vibe to it. And I feel that I have become more accepting of everybody, knowing that they may not think like me necessarily, but we have a common bond, and it's a really good thing because I realize I learn more about them, and by learning more about them, we really it just shows you how much variety we have in this country,
Yeah.
depending on where you're at. And
Yes.
I got to tell you, I brag on the Gulf Coast Volkswagen clubs because they have such wonderful events. The people are so wonderful. They love to cook for you, and they definitely know how to cook. So, and that's not to say other parts of the country, but I got to tell you, the Southeast is quite a place.
Yeah, I was just going to say when you were talking. So I grew up here, born and raised in St. Pete, and I worked at the hotels a lot on St. Pete Beach when I was growing up as a late teenager and into my 20s. And I can say this is like a melting pot area of culture because we've got people from all over the world that are here year round. And, you're mixing all kinds of different foods and different people and different skin tones and different vibes. And it is just the coolest thing ever. It really kind of offered me this perspective on life from a very young age that people are different, cultures are different, and guess what? It's okay. They don't think like me.
Absolutely.
Big deal. It's no
Yeah,
big deal, right? So, yeah. So I was just going to mention that because I kind of envisioned when you were talking about, that with being how I grew up, kind of recognizing the same thing out of what you've seen in your time traveling around. So kind of cool. let's touch on buses by the bridge, because what I noticed about buses by the bridge is that you were there early on and you had this opportunity over life to see this thing kind of grow. So your first was this your first year, 2003?
2003.
What do
And
you remember about buses by the bridge back then?
As I recall, there were about 46 buses then. And
Wow.
we were all camped on the grass area where that's got the sidewalks and it has different gazebos. And we all fitted there. So it wasn't this expansive one end of the park to the other end of the park and all over the beach. And we all cooked together. It was just because it was a small group, we really got to know each other. So I got to really kind of hang out with the founding fathers of the event, and I'm still friends with them. I camp with them now when I go there, and it's really kind of to see an event go on that long and see some of the people that I met back then are now in their 80s. So another and still enjoying the Volkswagen culture, and
Yeah.
of
So
course,
cool.
and some of them actually live in Lake Havasu. So which is really kind of nice. So uh, but to see the event grow like that and see how many people get to enjoy the community vibe that event has to offer.
It's one event that I continuously say, even to every guest that talks about it. That's the one that I want to go to one day, and one day I'll make it. I really will. But yeah, man, it's really cool to hear you talk about that. What's changed though about it over time? Because you've been there for so long. What's changed, and maybe even tell what's stayed the same. What's stayed sacred?
Well, the community has always been the community. What we it's the you see such a wide variety of people that have gotten this hobby, and some people have been doing this all their life, but a lot of them are new to the hobby. And for them to every time I meet someone that this is the first time they've gone to that event, it blows their mind to see, wow, it because it addresses so many things and they get to see the people that have the breakdowns and are fixing them there. They get to see the people and there's so many different clubs that have group feeds that you just walk around and suddenly they're saying, hey, we got tacos, come on over, join
Oh,
in the fun with us, you know. I've been very fortunate that I have a lot of music friends there, so we have our annual little get together on Friday night and on Saturday, and we jam out and have a good time. And you'll find several different pockets of entertainment throughout the entire campground. So to see that many people having that kind of a vibe and
ah,
where it's all about the community, but the interaction where no one's a stranger to each other, and you always meet new people. You meet people you've met in the past, but it's always or the people that you know on Facebook, but you never met firsthand.
right.
And lo and behold, there they are with their bus, and you say, "Hey, aren't you such and such? Oh, I recognize your bus," type thing. So
I
it's really
gotta
kind of
see this.
cool.
I gotta get out there and see this for myself one day. My dream is to have my podcast tent set up there and be able to connect with a lot of folks that I've had on my podcast over time, which is only going to get more and more over time because it's a priority for me. But so cool, man, so cool. Music festivals. You talk a lot about music festivals. Obviously, VW campouts, a lot of Earth arts festivals. What kind of draws you to this kind of bus slash music intersection?
Well, what's been really interesting is the fact that I'm finding more and more events that actually will have a where Volkswagens are not are a part of the event. And I'll give you an example of Rhythm on the Rio near Alamosa, Colorado. Actually, it's Del Norte, Colorado. They actually have a bus camp, and it's kind of hosted by the Colorado Bus Club, Greg Treble, and we have about 30 buses there camping next to the main stage of a music festival where we can still have a conversation in our campground when the music's going on. But if you want to cross the fence and get in front of the stage, you get the full effect of the music in terms of the noise and all the good stuff and all the people enjoying it. So, but for me, to have an activity that you can go enjoy your bus as well enjoy other things. And the other example is the Llano Earth Arts Festival, which is coming up here in 3 weeks, where we have a bus camp where people come in, kind of check out our little community, but they actually have a combination of a music festival, the arts and crafts festival, as well as the international rock stacking contest. So
Oh,
they have
cool. I've
people from
seen
all
those
over the
rock
world.
stacks. Yeah.
Yeah, and they there's a big riverbed in Llano on the river that they have all their natural materials, and lo and behold, you'll see them. come together with all kind of artwork. So it's a really interesting thing where you can go to music, the arts. You see international rock stackers as well as have our bus community. So we're getting ready to be doing that in about 3 weeks. So
Ooh,
yeah.
nice. That's cool. That's going to be
So
awesome.
you can kind of see it. There's never a dull moment. And I'm always looking for never a dull moment. So when I'm on the road and I go to events, I find myself staying up till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, which typically is sounds kind of late for 4 nights in a row, but you just don't even notice that it's that late because you're having so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun for sure. So interesting to hear your perspective here on this. What, in your words, what makes the Volkswagen community unique after 50 plus years in it?
The uniqueness is the fact that we accept each other and we're friends immediately. We all have a story. We all need help from time to time, and it just is a natural draw together. And I have been to other car shows, and this is nothing against the other car shows, but what I see the interaction that we have is unlike any other brand of car show that I've seen. And I've seen this consistently all over the country where people say that have never been to a Volkswagen man, they say, "Man, I had such a good time." And it was partly about the cars, but I think they really get excited about these people that are living the life in their vehicle and having a good time doing it. So it makes for an interesting time. So um,
It's the
so
people.
that
That's
it is all about the people.
why I started this podcast is because we need to be documenting these stories and somebody needs to be celebrating these people because there's nothing like it in the world. I'm telling you. You know, I'm only 48, but I've been through all kinds of car cultures and car shows and just like you were just describing. And nah, man, there's not even a close nothing compares to it, to the Volkswagen community, to the people, right? I mean, it's so awesome. But again, that's some of my motivation for starting this thing. All right, let's talk about this bus. This 1960 double door panel. It's behind you. It's behind me. Now, you've owned this bus for 30 plus years, right? But it sat for 25 years, which I kind of
Yes.
introduced and told you that. What happened? Tell me what made you pull this bus out of hibernation in 2019.
Well, when you have a kind of a collection of buses that are sitting in your building, I didn't realize that I was actually going to create my own barn finds because I've owned all of my buses so long because they were from the early days of my shop when they were very affordable and so this one bus I when I got it originally I put it on the road, got it mechanically sound, put a camper interior in it because I got to be able to camp in any bus no matter what it is. It's got a camper interior in it. And because I had another main driver, I just kind of sat in the back of my barn. And in 2019, I retired. I thought, you know what? I'm going to put that thing back on the road. And I slipped the motor in it and did just the brakes. It came to life really easily after sitting all that time, of course, inside. So it was cared for. And I started driving it and I noticed, man, this drives so good, and when I got it, it had 37,000 miles on it. So it was a low mile bus, the front beam, everything.
Oh,
And of
dude.
course, yeah. So since that time, of course, this thing has got disc brakes up front. It's had two transaxles in the life that I've driven it, because all that stuff doesn't last forever. And but it is a road warrior. And what I learned was having the feature of the double door. And since I travel by myself most of the time, man, the open floor space and being able to camp out of one side of the bus or the other side of the bus or both sides of the bus was a nice plus. So my other buses kind of been mothballed in my building, and I'm driving this one, and it's kind of become well recognized. So in other words, when people know me in this bus, and my bus, I put a motor in this thing about a year ago, and I drove my Vanning, and I've got other Volkswagens, needless to say, and I drove
I
my
bet you
Volkswagen.
do.
When I went to an event in the Volkswagen, they thought, "Who in the heck is this? Who is it?" And when they saw it was me, they said, "No way," because they'd seen me multiple times in my main driver. So that's why it's kind of become my main driver, and with it equipped now with diesel heat in the winter, where I'm just living the life of luxury and.
Cool.
And as I say, it just has worked out very well. This bus has worked out so well for me.
Has it let you down at all?
No, The letdown about a little over a year ago, I dropped the valve on my way to New Orleans, but I realized my motor had 93,000 miles on it, and this was all interstate driving all over the country. And I thought, and it's a difficult thing to predict when that's going to happen
Right.
because it ran flawlessly to the end. So I was 300 miles from home and was able to get it home and ended up making the trip in another bus. So, but it's the kind of thing that was it a letdown? Not really. It's just one of those things that just happens. And like I say, I go with the flow and I didn't sweat it, didn't worry about it at all. I was able to use my AAA towing for 200 miles of it. And the additional 100 miles, a friend of mine came out with his tow bar and helped me out. And so, but it's amazing how reliable this thing has been because people often ask me about the anxiety of drive. How can you not feel nervous about it? I said, you drive it with and adapt to the conditions, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, whether you're climbing steep hills, and you find those sweet spots. And apparently, you find the zen of driving the bus. And with
Ooh,
this particular bus, it just has all come together in such a way. I said, "Wow, it just." So that's why since 2019, I've been in this bus.
amazing. So if that bus could talk, what do you think it would tell? What stories would it tell?
Oh, oh my God, it's had so many experiences, and I mean, it would. I'm not even sure where it would start, but and I'm a photographer, so in other words, I take pictures. When I look at it in my phone, I have 25,000 pictures over the last 4 years of different events and places. And my bus is definitely not in many of those pictures, but it's the kind of thing where I say, oh, I'm on the beach here, I'm in the mountains here, I'm in Lake Havasu here, pictures with friends with this bus. So in other words, if the bus could talk, it'd be talking about all the people that have actually shared time with it indirectly with me.
Awesome. Always goes back
Yeah,
to the people, man. Always goes back to the
it,
people.
it really does. And that can also be at a Love's truck stop or a rest area. In other words, sometimes it is an event, but along the way to the events, it's the friendships made along the road has been amazing.
Yeah, we could say that's where the magic happens. It's always when you pull into the gas station, right, where you see the perfect stranger that says, "Oh, you got one of that, and this, and I had the same one in high school, and I kissed my first girl in that bus, and it was the same color." And right, we hear all that stuff every time we pull into a gas station. It's the stories, and again, always goes back to the people, man. I love this community. So, paint the picture for us. Middle of nowhere, Eastern Oklahoma, guitar at the lake. When did you realize somebody may have been watching? Because we're going to talk, right? We're going to talk about this photographer. Um, you kind of made local. Is the bus a local celebrity? I know it was like a tourism
Well,
postcard or something. Like,
well, 3 years ago, I was in the middle of nowhere in Lake Tenkiller, which is about 80 miles from Tulsa, by myself, or I thought I was by myself. And I was playing my guitar, got some birds around, some ducks around, just having a good time, just relaxing. And I look up, and in the distance, I saw there was a guy walking around with a camera, and I thought, oh, okay. Uh, he actually walks up to me and says, well, introduces himself, and he's a local photographer, well known in the area. And he says, hope you don't mind. I took some great pictures of you in your bus. And I said, okay. So anyhow, we become friends, and what turned out to be 6 weeks later, he calls me up and says, "Leo, we're putting it together a promotional tourism pack of postcards. Can we use a picture of your bus?" And I thought, "Oh my God, really?" So with a little hesitation, but I thought it's just a local tourism card for the area. I said, "Okay, let's do that." So I had to get my pack of 5 cards for my bus, and it turned into my Christmas card for my friends because I thought, oh, this is kind of cool, actually. So anyhow, fast forward a year, I'm at a music festival, and he calls me in April, and he says, Leo, we've got 2 months of billboard space in Oklahoma City, and we have a new promotional byline to go with it. Can we use your bus on the billboard? Well, I'm kind of a behind the scenes person and I'm not really into the, too much attention type thing. But I thought with a lot of hesitation, I said, you know what, go for it. So they end up putting this up on a billboard for in June and July of that. This was 2 years ago now. And And so there I am on a billboard. Now, it was being scrolled with probably 60 other different things on the billboard, so it wasn't like exclusive all the time, but it was kind of a cool thing to have happen. And I had people that actually said, Leo, I think I saw your bus in Oklahoma City. And I said, what? And I said, yeah, well, guess what? That was me, type thing. So anyhow, a year later, this was last April, I'm at the down in Texas at a music festival, their big folk festival, and I get the call and he says, "Hey, Leo, we're putting an ad together, and can we use the bus in the ad with our byline?" Now, I heard it as an advertisement. So I thought, okay, it represents a really a nice community group of people. It supports a lot of different causes and what they were doing. I said, okay, and his name is Stan. I said, Stan, go ahead, let's go for this. And anyhow, he sends me the copy of it, and I look at it on my phone. Of course, small screen. I'm traveling. I'm looking at it. Oh, and I replied, "Oh, that's a nice ad." Well, he replied by saying, "Hey, Leo, you need to take a look at that." And lo and behold, it's the front cover of their tourism guide.
Dude.
So now, in September of this past September, I'm up at a celebration of life for a good friend of mine, Santa Irvin, who is a lifelong bus owner that passed away, a good friend of mine that did some traveling with me. On my way back into Oklahoma, I stop into the Welcome Center. I walk in, and lo and behold, I see on the bottom shelf there are three stacks of this magazine. I thought, oh my God, well, there were two older ladies who were interacting with different people in the lobby area there, and one of them came up to me and she had the copy in her hand and she said, "Is that your Volkswagen outside?" Because I was parked directly outside the front of this place. I said, "As a matter of fact, it is." And I could tell the wheels were in motion, but she didn't really put two and two to quite together. And then I said, "Well, actually," she looked at and I said, "Yes, ma'am, that is me and that is my bus." Well, it turns into this. Can we get pictures with you in the bus and us in the bus and and shots here? And then they said, can we share this? And I said, well, people were overhearing this conversation. So when I left the welcome center and we went back to the bus, I had a string of people for about an hour with this talking to me about what I did and take a look at my bus. So it's kind of like, wow, I didn't expect that at all. So I've seen it now in four different welcome centers,
Wow.
and yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting thing. But it was one of those things that you say I've been driving them all my life, but I would have never thought that would have happened.
And you,
Especially me being the behind the scenes guy that I am.
yeah, I was gonna say you kind of, display yourself as kind of the guy that avoids social media, and now you become the face of a cool place to be.
Yeah,
Really kind of cool, man.
yeah,
Kind of cool.
yeah.
Has that moment for you, has it changed anything for you?
Um, hmm. No, I don't think it has. It just kind of made me a good and aware of one, I'm going to meet a different group of people that are seeing something that they've probably never seen before. And so it got attention, not necessarily from me, but just it really helped their tourism department. That was really why I supported their tourism program there, because between the Indian nations that are involved down in the Tahlequah area, as well as some of the nonprofits down there, I said, including cleaning up the Illinois River, I thought, boy, this is actually all going for a good thing. So that's why it all uh, kind of came to the point where this is really not about me. This is actually just about bringing up an area of Oklahoma that is a great tourist area to go, and they just happen to pick me as the draw attention to the front cover of their magazine.
How cool, man.
I do have a copy of this is actually, and I don't know if you can see this. This is the billboard. So
Heck
this is
yeah.
actually the yeah. So that was actually the
Let's
billboard.
go. So
Yeah, and I have a
cool.
good friend Josh Cloutier in Las Vegas that made these up for me, and um, yeah, and then they also mm, this is a tourism card
Dude.
from Oklahoma that they
Wow.
sell, and this generates funds for the cleaning the river water of the Illinois River, among a few other projects. So I thought, how can I say no to that?
Right.
Even though it's kind of odd to me, but kind of bizarre to me actually. So, but
I think
yeah,
it's so
so
cool, man. It's so cool that that state celebrates Volkswagen. Whether
Actually,
whether they like to or not, brother, that's what's happening.
I, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. Like it, and I say that the cool thing about it, it's not about me. It really is nothing. And I told them that when they did all this stuff, I didn't want my name in the magazine, meaning I want this just to be. But needless to say, I've had a lot of people contact me, so that have contacted me. Well, who is that person? Or I know that person.
Right.
So yeah, so it's kind of taken a life of its own. But one other thing that you can kind of see in the background here is they actually made lithographs of this picture and are selling them as a fundraiser as well. So, and the picture that you have behind you, that's actually one of the lithographs that was found at a flea market in Gore, Oklahoma, of all places. I'd gotten a call from someone that said, Leo, you're not going to believe this. We see a picture of you and it's on a wall in this shop that sells lithographs framed. And I said, I got to go check this out. So needless to say, I had to go down there and find out what that was all about. And that was like, wow. So I had to get one, needless to say.
You're making me want one. I want one. I can say, hey, I had that guy on the podcast. Let's talk about retirement. Has retirement amplified the lifestyle that you're living?
Oh, absolutely. When retirement does not come with instructions. And the common thing I'd heard from a lot of retirees, I admit that the first year you don't know what the heck you're doing other than you're waking up each morning and thankful for the day, but you're not really sure. You're not punching a clock. You're not doing your 8 hours of doing something. It took about a year of one. I wanted to catch up on some of my projects in my shop but then it started turning into, you know what? I'm going to travel. And it just became where I was traveling all the time. And as I say, 2 weeks of every month, one planned weekend, one is what I call my wild card weekend, which is maybe something I heard about in terms of an event. And it just kind of has come. That's how it all got started. And now I can do it. And from the end of July to November, I'm on the road the whole time. In other words, I come home each month to service the bus. Uh, During that time, I may be home for a week, 4 or 5 days, just varies because there's so many different events, and I'm going all over the country, literally from that time of the year. But right now, for the other months, it's basically about 2 weeks.
Does your wife travel with you?
What she does, she has what we call her VW bus, which is not a VW bus. She's had a back surgery, and so she has a conversion van that she has that has all the amenities, a Sprinter van, and so when we travel together, and our last trip was actually to Sevierville, we leave at the same time. She'll be at a state campground, and she's normally there 2 to 3 hours ahead of me. So in other words, we meet at the end of the day, and what's really been cool about it here in the last year, and she actually has the campfire going and everything. So in other words, she's kind of gotten into her thing, and she
Dang.
can be comfortable, and the dog gets to travel with us too. So she normally picks 3 or 4 events a year that we'll do that, and it works out well for us because her bouncing around in a split screen bus is not too exciting at 70 years old. Yeah, so.
I can imagine. Well, I do want to say this though. You got an open invite. All right. Let me tell you about my 4 events I've got down here. Number one, I'll tell you about V-Dubs over the Skyway. This is a 27-year-old event that started with just a small group of guys, 10 guys, that wanted to camp, going from St. Pete up over the Skyway Bridge south into Sarasota. They'd camp, they'd hang out for the weekend, and they'd come back. That turned into other people saying, well, I want to be a part of that convoy, right? Or, just basically it became something cool. In 2024, me and my partner Alan took that ride over and promoted it because it died during COVID. And the gentleman that was running it back then, he was getting older and he lost some of the resources. And, through COVID, it never was able to start back up. So we started it back up in 2024 for the 25th consecutive year. We had 440 cars, which
Wow,
is
amazing.
which is really cool. Yes. So this year, April is the 27th year. We're probably anticipating 200 to 300 cars. So V-Dubs over the Skyway. That's one. Two, V-Dubs on the pier. Downtown St. Pete, we have the historic, pier, the downtown St. Pete pier. It had new construction, and since the new construction, we have been the first car show that's been allowed on the pier property. So we have about 250 cars. It's very cool. It's just for the day. But it's a really cool event. There's food trucks, and we have a parade in the morning where we actually parade down Bayshore Boulevard, which is super cool because the cops have to close it down and everything for us. And it's all classic Volkswagens, man. About 200, 250 of us. So we parade up Bayshore. We turn right, head out toward the pier, and we park on Spa Beach. We're out on a peninsula. It's all surrounded by water. The drone shots are incredible. It's a really, really cool time. Then we've got V-Dub's Beach Bash. October, beautiful time of year down here in Florida. It's not too hot, not too cold yet. We have a beach bash in Paso Grill, a classic, historic beach for this area. It's out past the Don Cesar Hotel, which was an old World War II hospital, and just a really cool spot. If you know this area, Tampa Bay area at all, you might know the Don Cesar out on St. Pete Beach. Anyway, that's only about 80 or 90 cars, but VW's Beach Bash, super cool. And then lastly, in December, we have the V-Dubs over the Skyway again, but this time because the bridge is all lit up by like however many $1 million worth of LED lights at night. It changes colors for the seasons. They celebrate the Bucks and it changes all these colors. The bridge, I'm talking about this,
Oh,
multi-mile long
sure.
bridge.
Yeah.
So because it lights up at night, these guys in the community came to us after the success of us starting the ride back up, V-Dubs over the Skyway, and they're like, look, we got to do something more than once a year. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it at night. Let's do it at night. Let's dress all the cars up in like Christmas lights and LEDs and let's have a lights contest. So we do. And now we've got between 100 and 200 cars that come to that. So my point was by saying all this, you got an open invite. If you ever want to come down here and bring the bus, man, come on down. We got 4 events a year that we do. They're all scattered throughout the year. And I'd love to have you and your wife come down. That'd be great.
Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind. And just so you know, my parents lived in Clearwater Beach for 30 years.
Oh
So in
man,
other
you know
words,
all
I'm
about
very
everything I've
familiar
been
with the
mentioning.
area.
Yeah.
And no, I'm glad you brought it up because, I've been to the Bully Brigade, I've been
Oh
to,
yeah.
Fort DeSoto, and of course the Florida Bug Jam and all. And
Oh yeah.
so, in other words, I'm familiar with the area, but I have not, I've seen your events. I will put that on my calendar for one of those four. Now, I will say some of those kind of coincide with the same weekend as Pensacola
Okay.
and some of the other Florida shows.
Yeah.
But between having four opportunities, I'll pick one of the ones and I will come down in the upcoming year
Yeah,
for
cool,
sure.
man. That'd be awesome. That'll be cool to see you. All right. We'll shift gears off of me back to you. What have buses taught you about slowing down?
Well, I'll tell you, funny that you mentioned that because this is something I share with a lot of people that, when you're traveling on the highway, and I try to avoid the interstates when I can, but obviously I can't all the time, but people are passing you. If you pass one car a day, and I tell them that's what keeps the youth in you is the fact that I'm moving slower. My time clock's going a different direction than yours is, and I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. And when they hear that, they say, because they always say this,
You got it all figured
hey, I saw you way back there, and I'm at the Love's gas station, or whatever, and they say, man, how did you catch up with us? And it's just that steady rhythm of the road that you get there, and you suddenly have a great conversation with people and they always say, well, we passed you like miles ago, and now you're rolling in, and we haven't left the gas station yet.
out. Yeah.
So what I've found is being in a hurry does not get you there quicker. And as I say, I think the slowness and just really enjoying the ride, and as I say, it's like you're in reverse motion because of the fact that everybody's going passing you. So it gives you a unique experience.
Yeah, cool perspective for sure. So what does freedom look like for you at this stage of life? Freedom.
Freedom. Well, when you have the freedom to enjoy life and really feel from within that you have the peace because you do have that freedom and you're just enjoying everything that life has to offer you. I feel blessed and very thankful that is worked out that way because when you meet people that retire, you get all kind of versions of life got better, life got worse, life got boring, I got unhealthy, and all that type of thing. And somehow this combination, this lifestyle is keeping me healthy, alert, and alive. So,
I love it. I love it. It's fighting that bus all day on the road. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know.
well, I'll tell you what, when you head west on I-40 and you're going across New Mexico, where you have long 3 and 4 mile grades, and you have a 30-mile headwind, which is this has actually happened. At the end of the day, you feel your shoulders.
I
So
don't
in other
doubt
words,
it.
yeah, there are times that you definitely pay for the enjoyment of driving the bus.
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of kidding, but when you explain it that way, I can anticipate that. And here's the only reason why I can relate to that. I've never driven a bus in those conditions, but I kind of have a bus with my wife's van. She's got two cars, but she's got a 2021 Nissan Envy passenger van.
Hmm.
It's a 3500, so it's the bigger one with the V8. But we have got a 38-foot bumper pull trailer camper, and we have pulled that camper from Colorado to Miami, from Washington State all the way back home here to Tampa, St. Pete area. And here's what I can say: leaving Colorado and coming back this way, if you go through like Kansas, you know, depending on which direction you're traveling, that headwind, I tell you, I was lucky to get 3 miles to the gallon when we were coming back one year. I was watching as I had the gas pedal virtually almost floored, and I'm pulling this 38-foot camper, and my we're packed down with five kids and five dogs, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm watching the gas needle just constantly go down the whole time I'm driving, and I can't believe it because I'm like, we're not gonna make it to the next gas station, you know?
Yeah.
So in my own weird way, I feel that steep headwind and it dragging my car all over the road. And I'm like, man, this is a modern day and age, vehicle. For it to be beating my ass like this, that's crazy. But yeah, anyway, that's how I can relate. I've got some rapid fire style questions for you. These are questions that demand a fast response, a short answer. However, I say this every episode, if a story evolves of any of these, so be it. I'm in no hurry. We can rock this thing out, no big deal. But these are designed to be short answers, first thing that comes to mind type thing. Cool?
Okay, cool.
All right, you ready?
I am.
All right, first question. Early bay window or a split bus if you had to choose one?
Split bus.
I knew it. All right. How
But
about
I do own two bay window buses that I do enjoy driving, but no, I'm a split bus guy.
so I'll put you on the spot with this one. So they say that the bay window bus is like the Cadillac of buses. Do you find that to be true?
Absolutely, especially the ones with the upright engines versus the later model ones. And I drove one of those for many years also. I had a 69 Westie. So I appreciate the ball joint front end and the smoother ride and a little more better gearing. But yeah, but the split bus seems to fit me.
Okay. All right. All right. How about this one? Patina or fresh paint?
I would have to say I question the word patina. I like original versus the word patina. So in other words, my bus happens to be just like I got it out of the weeds. You can call it patina, but for me, I just call it original. And
Okay.
it shows the dents and dings and the scratches and all that stuff of all the years on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some folks in the past say, man, glossy paint causes stress. So I can take
It,
what you're saying. All right, how about
yeah.
this one? Best state, if you only had to pick one, best state to bust through.
That one is very difficult. I'd have to say Colorado.
Ooh, nice.
I love, I really do love Colorado. I love the people in Colorado and the terrain, but I really have a hard time at this point of the game because there's so many wonderful experiences and wonderful places all across this United States. But I'd have to say Colorado would be the place that I definitely got to make my Colorado trip every year.
Yeah, I love Colorado. Had a house out there for 9 years. Spent a good portion of raising my children in that state, Colorado Springs. And I've had a couple guys on the podcast that are in that area that are out in Colorado, and I just absolutely love their pictures and all their videos and stuff that they share because it really is like a second home for me. I've got really awesome memories. My mom lives in Canyon City, Colorado. My sister's up in
Mhm.
Denver. So I've got my family still out there and everything too. But this ain't about me. Back to you. All right, here's the next one.
Yeah,
One tool that you'll never travel without.
I would have to say, first of all, would be a screwdriver. But the tool that I have thinking in terms of your brain is keeping a cool head if you actually need to use a tool. Because so
Hey,
often the
that's a
time
cool
you have the
tool.
tool but you don't have the cool head to use the tool efficiently. So, but I would say the essential tool would be a screwdriver.
Okay. Okay. I can take that. How about favorite roadside meal?
That's a difficult one too. When I'm on the road, I cook a lot of my own meals, but when I'm traveling and I go to different areas, I find the local mom and pop place that I normally will stop because I normally eat once a day. And I always try, I actually Google mom and pop diner in whatever city I'm in area, and something pulls up. And for some reason, I come up with the one that I'm going to go to, and it always turns into an awesome experience. And I meet cool people while
Yeah.
I'm there, as well as have a wonderful meal that represents the area.
Cool. And that was a cool story. So I'm glad that that came out. How about this one? Hardest repair that you've ever had to do roadside?
I would have to say an alternator. I've gotten where I can do an alternator in the car. I had one fail, and I had the tools to actually replace it. But I would have to say that's probably the number one, the most difficult. But for me, the thing I've been a points condenser type person most of my life, where it's the adjusting of the points or having the early failure of a condenser. So, um, but now I've actually gone to the modern electronic ignition, so that's not such an issue anymore. I hope.
Most underrated VW event that you've been to? Underrated.
Well, I don't know if there's ratings necessarily for the shows, but I'll tell you the underrated one, and one of them has become one of my favorite, is what's called Volksgiving. Volksgiving is held in
Texas.
Kiln, Mississippi, and
Okay.
it's a combination of the New Orleans Volkswagen Group, the Biloxi Group, the Pensacola Group, the Mobile,
Oh,
Alabama Group,
yes.
and that area. And they have a annual in November, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, where we all have a celebration of. It's not a car show. We're all camped in a campground. They have about 100 people. They all cook. They all share a Thanksgiving meal together on Saturday. We're there for 3 days, and
Oh, cool.
it's not necessarily, but that is one of the ones that I say I go to every year now because it's such a wonderful experience, and it's a VW experience, but it's not a VW show, and the vibe is totally about Thanksgiving and being thankful for what we have.
Oh man, totally love that. And all the groups that you mentioned, Pensacola for sure. Derek Henry's there, I know you
Oh
probably
yeah, I know Derek. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Awesome guy. He's been on the podcast too. I'll support him any way that I can, from down here. And likewise, he's the same way. I was fortunate enough to meet him just pretty recently, a few maybe just a couple of months ago at the weekend getaway, the VW weekend getaway, which was
Hmm.
Dover, Florida, really Tampa, the Tampa Fairgrounds there. Awesome event. This time though, we had record temperatures in Florida, and the Saturday night that everybody was there camping out in their VWs, it was in the medium 20-degree temperatures in here in
Yeah.
Florida. Now look, brother, 20 degrees here is not 20 degrees in Colorado. This is not a dry cold. This is a wet, bone chilling, knock your you know what off cold. So these guys, I felt for them so bad because a lot of them had traveled from far. But VW community sticks together. They all, had firewood and they all got it done. But man, we had record temperatures and anyway, that was my experience. But I was able to finally get to meet Derek face to face, and he got to take a picture with the championship belt. I've got this cool. I'm a fight fan, UFC fan. My son's into MMA and everything. So when I started this podcast, I had this vision of, hey, when I do all these events and shows, I want to have my logo on a backdrop, and I want to take a picture with the people that come on the podcast, right? The people that come on, they're like the podcast champions because, right, the champions of the VW community. So I put the
Right.
championship belt on their shoulder and I take a picture with them because this podcast is about
Oh,
them people, right? So I've
yeah.
been
Very
able to
cool.
do that. So I finally got my picture with Derek with the belt. And even though the wind was so
Yeah.
crazy, we got it done. We got it done. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, good times.
With,
Derek's a great
with
guy for sure.
this is where you learn. This is where you learn about the value of having a diesel heater, which I've had now for about 3 years. What a game changer! And I know a lot of the guys in North Florida have them. They have a what they call their freeze your ass off camp out in Milton, Florida. And I've experienced a 16-degree weather night with them
Oh
in
my
January. They do
goodness.
this every January. It used to be the week
That's
before
cold.
Havasu. So I'd go down there and then I'd drive to Havasu after that. So Yeah,
Dang,
so some of the Floridians are kind of prepared for that cold weather.
that's a big trip right there. All right, how about this one? A sunrise camp or a sunset camp?
We're going to go with Sunset Camp.
Okay, sunset, I can take it. How about this one? Only pick one. Mountains, desert, or the coast?
Oh, I'm going to have to say mountains. But here again, for me, it's very
Awesome.
difficult because I enjoy the beach. And that's why I have the variety of being able to go to all these different, whether you're on the coast or whether you're in the mountains or Havasu in the middle of the desert. And my Havasu trip now includes I spend 10 days in the Quartzsite area, which is south of Lake Havasu, where you're camping with all the van lifers. And you want to talk about another mix of people that are just like Volkswagen people in a lot of way that come from all walks of life in the middle of the desert camping for free on BLM land. So that's been kind of an added treat to that trip in the winter.
Very cool. Best song to play on a guitar lakeside.
Oh man, that's
Can't pick one, can you?
I cannot pick one. I do write music. I don't sing that very often, only in front of strangers. But I have to say, yeah, you get kind of self-conscious. I don't mind playing guitar in front of people, but singing's a different thing. But yeah, so it's really hard to say a favorite song. But what I try to do relative to this music is each one of my trips, especially when they're 2, 3 weeks long, the words that will come in terms of verses for a song always come out with the people I meet, whether they're the VW people, and it's really kind of funny. And sometimes I will sing the song at a campground where they'll hear their name or something about their bus. They said, "Huh, I never thought that would ever be in a song before," and they get a kick out of it. So yeah, lots of stories that you could put into kind of weave into your music.
Yeah, cool, man. One word that describes bus life.
Peace.
Peace. Nice.
The piece from within of being able to do this and enjoy it to the level that I have is really to me the essence of life. And we live in kind of different times now, and at 70 years old, you kind of realize, wow, life has changed, and life people's experience of in terms of a person that's 70 years old, 60 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old. It's all different because of our life experiences and the sum of our experiences. So yeah, so that's how I describe it.
So going back in time, if you could go back to 1972 and talk to young Leo, what would you tell him? What advice would you give him?
Rock on, brother. I got to say, what a wonderful experience. And I had no idea from driving that 66 Beetle and having a cassette player that was actually a battery operated cassette player for music. And at one time, removing the passenger seat so I could sleep on that side of the car on the floor. So I would have never thought it would have evolved to this, but what a lifetime of pleasure it has brought me and others too.
Well said. When it's all said and done, and end of the day, what do you hope people remember about you, about your journey?
I think the interaction with others and caring for each other is what I hope because I've had so many memorable experiences, and every day I'm traveling on the road, I always have that exceptional person that I meet that I say, "Wow, that was not a random meeting. There was some higher power that drew us together."
Yeah,
And you sometimes hear good stories, sometimes hear bad stories, sometimes sad stories, but the bottom line is you connect in a way that you'd have never thought because you were totally strangers 20 minutes earlier.
awesome. What would you tell somebody that might be afraid to take that first trip?
My recommendation is travel with others. I do a lot of traveling myself solo just because I have the flexibility to do all these traveling at moment's notice, and I have a lot more time, needless to say, being retired. But the thing is, if you travel with other people and you can share in the experience, and if you have issues, you have someone to share it with, and you're not feeling so I'm in the middle of nowhere with nobody to call and no one here to help me. And so that's the thing is people that are new to this hobby. That's just an important thing. Travel with others. The other thing is gain your confidence by learning to do some of the basic things on your own car. That helps because I realize a lot of people they may have tools but really don't know what to do when something does happen. So sharing the experience with others is the best advice I could give them.
And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.